kicking things off with football on this Thursday. The draw for the 32 teams in the group stage of the UEFA Champions League. Well, that took place in Istanbul on Thursday. And let's have a quick look at those groupings now. Group A, Ajax, Liverpool, Napoli, Rangers. Group B, Porto, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, Club Brugge. Group C has Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Inter Milan, and Victoria Pleasant. 14 Champions League titles between Barcelona, Bayern, and Inter in that Group C. Group D has Eintracht Frankfurt, Tottenham Hotspur, Sporting, and Olympique Marseille. Let's move across now to Group E and the other groups to complete the draw which we saw today. Yeah, AC Milan, Chelsea, Salzburg, Dinamo. Group F has Real Madrid, RB Leipzig, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Celtic. Group G, Manchester City, Sevilla, Borussia Dortmund, and FC Copenhagen. Group H has Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, Benfica, and Maccabi Haifa. Yeah, full draws there for the UEFA Champions League, which is already on SportsMax and SportsMax 2 based on the qualifying series that we've been looking at. Brent Sancho now joins us to review the draw today. Brent, what jumps out at you first as you look at the draw?
Parity. That's what jumps out. Good afternoon, of course, to you, Lance, and the rest of the panel and all the viewers. But parity, it's been a while since we've had the Champions League draw where you can say it's quite even. I mean, of course, Group C does have, a taste of Group of Death, maybe a tinge of Group A, but outside of that, I think when you look at it from a general perspective, there's a lot of parity there. It should bring for some interest in football. Not saying that there won't be upsets, but I'm saying there is some parity in the sense that the favourites are there and they should advance out to their respective groups.
Yeah, and I guess one of the interesting things coming out of the draw today, Haaland and Lewandowski drawn against their former teams for the group stage.
Yeah, always brings a bit of a bite when you talk about former players coming in. I think particularly for Barcelona and Bayern Munich, I saw Thomas Muller sending a nice little video message to his former teammate, saying he's looking forward to the meeting. But I still feel that the favourites in the groups that have been drawn so far should come out of it. When you look at the groups there, of course, Group A with Ajax, Liverpool, and Napoli, I think that one there, 2 out of 3, could be very, very interesting. If you were to push me as it relates to a Group of Death, I may point to that Group C there with Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and Inter Milan. But outside of that, I think really and truly, if you are a betting man, Lance, you put your money in the favourites and they should be all right.
Yeah, speaking of favourites, Real Madrid drawn alongside RB Leipzig, Shakhtar Donetsk and Celtic. Do you think the 14-time winners will have an easy route out of this group?
Listen, Mara, I've been doing Champions League with SportsMax for quite some time and I've learned a lesson. Never bet against Real Madrid. I done it once when they had Juventus in the finals and that didn't work out for me. And I also, in the last final against Liverpool, everything pointed towards Liverpool winning and Real Madrid came out. My point is, Real Madrid is Champions League. Champions League is Real Madrid. So, although it's early stages, and I think, the fact that we've covered this for such a long time, we know that the conversation that we have today will be a lot different to the conversation we'll have in January as it relates to Champions League, because there's injuries, there's form, and of course there's different things that happen in world football that dictates. It is not a one-off competition, it's a competition that stretches for quite some time, and because of that, as much as we like to try to predict a winner, there's always a challenge. But Real Madrid has always been good value for money in the Champions League.
Definitely, and Tottenham, that's drawn in Group D alongside Eintracht Frankfurt. They have Sporting Lisbon and Marseille. Tottenham would feel like this may be a walk in the park for them based on the names that they've been drawn alongside.
Yeah, I think if Conte doesn't come out of this one, he should just put the brakes on things because he has to come out. They've been playing good so far. As I said, it's still early doors, but when you look at the type of squad he's put together, they've certainly started to gel in the EPL. Of course, the Champions League brings a little bit different type of situation. Sporting has done well in terms of what they have. Of course, there's rumours about Cristiano Ronaldo going there. We'll see what happens still sometime in the transfer window. Eintracht Frankfurt has had some movement of players since their success in the Europa League. And Marseille continue to try to bring players. Of course, they're just looking to bring in more players before the window closes. So still some adjustments, but I think Spurs has a more settled squad and certainly have the type of players that should see them coming out of that Group D.
Now, Erling Haaland has joined Manchester City. We all know the story about Manchester City and the Champions League, so much so that the fans, whenever it's a Champions League discussion, we kind of like exit ourselves, or we are very, very quiet, as opposed to when we talk about other competitions. Do you get the sense that Erling Haaland now helps the Manchester City team and they're more dominant this year?
He brings a different dimension, that's for sure. He brings a different threat. I've seen a lot of reports as it relates to Haaland and whether or not he was settling and if he's worth the money. The guy is arguably one of the best strikers in world football. And if you add that to an already very, very talented Manchester City team, top players know how to play with top players. They're going to gel, they're going to mold. Manchester City is going to adapt the way they play to suit Erling Haaland. And Erling Haaland is going to adapt the way he plays to adapt to Manchester City, because that's what the best players in world football do. They find ways to gel and to make sure that they can bring the best out of each other. So they certainly, to me, Manchester City has to be in the discussion, or have to be in the discussion as it relates to favourites to win the Champions League. And again, I hate to make pronouncement this early in the competition, but certainly Man City would be in that conversation for taking the entire thing.
All right, Brent, let's get right into it, because I'm not letting you off today. You said that you spoke about about betting against Real when they were playing in Wales against Juventus. It's obvious you'd have bet against against Real, because you're a Juventus man. But here's the thing: I'm looking at the various groups. I'm looking at the 8 groups, and I want to ask you about 2 things. Well, if I ask you one thing, it will answer the second question. The first thing, the seeding of the groups, Brent. Do you think the groups will go according to seeding? For instance, Group A, Ajax, Liverpool, the top 2 in that order. Group B, Porto, Atletico. Group C, Bayern, Barca. Group D, Frankfurt, Spurs. Group E, Milan, Chelsea. Group G, Man City, Sevilla. F, Madrid and Leipzig. And Group H, PSG and Juventus. Those are the seedings in those exact orders. If it all goes as we expect based on the abilities of the teams, do you think the groups will finish that way, firstly?
I think the favourites will win. I think they will win the group, the favourites. There are some groups, of course, George, I do think there may be some jousting. When you take Group A, for example, Ajax have lost a lot of players and will lose a lot of players. Of course, we see Anthony maybe going to Manchester United, and other players have left. Ten Hag have left. Of course, Martinez left to Manchester United, etc. And when you look at Napoli, they have brought in 1 or 2, and I do think it's a team that seems to be playing quite well. So I'm not sure about that Ajax finishing ahead, Napoli vice versa. I think it'd also be interesting as well with Inter Milan. I think that would be a very interesting proposition. And I do think, of course, with Barcelona and Inter Milan, I do think that still has some question mark, although Barcelona has signed quite well. So the short answer to your question is yes, I do think the favourites will proceed. I'm not suggesting they proceed first place, but they will proceed on to the next round.
Yeah.
But I think the toss-up for the ones that are second seeded, George, I think that's where the interest will come in this competition.
Yeah. So you're saying that, well, Liverpool are the second seed in Group A, but we know who's a top seed. Liverpool are, Ajax are second. You're saying that one of Ajax or Napoli will join Liverpool in the next round.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And of course, to the seeding, we're saying Ajax is higher, but I do feel I won't be surprised, George, if Napoli comes through in that one.
All right. Group C, Bayern, Barca, Inter. I'm suggesting to you that Inter were stronger 2 seasons ago when they won Serie A than they are now. So if that logic holds, are we to expect that they'll play Europa League football after the group stage is done in the Champions League?
I am not. Look, I'm one of those that I'm not, and I know a lot of your viewers may disagree with me here, but I'm not fully convinced with Xavi and his tactics. And I do think what Inter presents in the terms of Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez, I think that could be a challenge to Barcelona. Those two men up top. I think what the difference in the dynamics in the way they play, and if there's one thing that is the Achilles heel for Barcelona, is that centre-half pairing.
Yeah.
And if Inter Milan are able to do the business, I think that's where the upset will come in.
All right, let me talk about something close to home for you in the short time we have left. Celtic are in Group F with Shakhtar, RB Leipzig, and Real Madrid. And I'm trying to find the Rangers. Rangers are in Group G. Group
A.
Group A, beg your pardon. In Group A, good. So the two Scottish teams, I'm sure you'd agree that Celtic perhaps have an outside chance of playing Europa League football. I'm not even talking about going through to the next stage of the Champions League. Are you saying Celtic are better poised to grab at least a Europa League place relative to Celtic, their great Scottish rivals?
Yeah, I think so. It's simply down to the draw. It's simply down to the draw. I think the group that Rangers are in, it's a very, very tight and difficult group.
Right. And just borrowed time here. So Sporting Lisbon, third seed in Group D with Eintracht Frankfurt and Spurs. Can they separate those two teams? Can they join Spurs in the second round of the Champions League, as opposed to many people who think Eintracht Frankfurt, by virtue of their successful run to the Europa League for our title last season, that Frankfurt and Spurs will come out of Group D? Can Sporting Lisbon do it? Can they get there?
Yeah, I do think so. I think in terms of the squad that they have, as I mentioned at the top of the program, there is conversation about Ronaldo possibly joining. We'll see. There's still some time in the window. But what they've been able to keep the majority of the squad, I think it's a very good Sporting team that could pose some sort of difficulties to Eintracht Frankfurt.
And in 20 seconds or less, Brent, everybody says Frankfurt, Spurs, Sporting Lisbon, and Olympique Marseille. That's the weakest group, and Spurs will have it easy. I disagree.
I disagree. Listen, Spurs will not have it easy. We've seen Spurs in Europe. They're flattered to deceive. I do agree that Conte has brought a bit of steel and a bit of nous to this team. But that being said, I think the teams that are in the group tactically will present some challenges for Spurs. So I don't think it's an open and shut case.
All right, Brent, we're going to leave it there. We'll still have a few weeks to dissect what happens in the Champions League this year as Real Madrid go for a 15th title. And as you said, you never bet against Real Madrid when it comes to UCL football. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, we have a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone after this.